Hi, our guest today is Mike Spurling, and Mike is organizing the brand new Blackstone Valley Rugby Football Club. Hi,
Welcome,
Mike.
gentlemen. Welcome.
For those who don't know rugby, could you quickly tell us about the game?
Yeah, so I guess the short story is guy once got tired of playing soccer, decided to pick up the ball and start running, and people tried to tackle him down, and that's how rugby was formed.
Isn't that football?
Actually, football came from rugby. For several years, there was rugby union, which is the form that I play. And when the lower class people in England got tired of the union-style rules and the upper-classedness of it, they created what's called rugby league, which is similar to football in you have 6 attempts to make it to the end zone. And if you don't make it, usually the 6th attempt, they then punt it downfield, and then the other team gets to their 6 attempts up the field to try to bring it.
Okay, but there is no passing, correct?
Only backwards. You can kick forward, pass backwards in rugby. Football is pass forward, and that's where they kind of went downhill with it, in my opinion.
Okay, so you've been playing rugby down the Cape for quite a while.
Yep.
You moved up to the Blackstone Valley area.
Yep.
And now you're organizing a club.
Yes, so it's a new club.
That's the equivalent of a team.
Yes, so it's most rugby union is a club-style sport. Even the USA Eagles, who's the national team, they're a club as well.
Okay.
And from that, usually, like a club will include like a men's and a women's side, B sides, and hopefully, my hope is after we get the adult sides built in the greater Milford area, we can even get like a youth side and a high school side going.
Okay. How many people play on a typical, I want to say team, but club?
So in terms of during gameplay, you're allowed 25 people. There are 15 people on the field. And unlike any other sport, the starting 15, the second you step off the field, other than to get like checked out for certain injuries or anything, once you step off the field, you can't step back on. So it's not like revolving substitutions or anything.
Oh, really? That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so
if you're one of those first 15 and you say, I'm going to step off the field, they have to replace you.
Yep. Once they replace you, that person's on for the remainder of the game.
Now, how long is the game?
80 minutes, 2 40-minute halves, nonstop, not like football or any of the other sports
Okay,
where
now
there's
the only rugby term I've ever heard is scrum.
Yep.
What's a scrum?
So the scrum is in terms of smaller infractions during a gameplay, such as passing the ball forward, accidentally fumbling the ball forward, or anything like that. They have what's called a scrum happen, where the 8 forwards, who are the 8 biggest guys, all bind together on each team and crouch down in a very low position and then kind of come together and butt heads, and then the ball is placed between them. So because it's a minor infraction of just I accidentally knocked the ball forward, you have the ability to maybe get the ball back, but usually the team who puts the ball in is the one who gets it. Not one of my favorite parts of the thing, but you can kind of pass the ball in towards your players, even though it's technically supposed to go down the middle and push. Each side's supposed to push against each other to fight for the ball.
Okay, now rugby came out of Europe, correct?
Yes, so it started in England, and then it really went out to all of the English colonies, the New Zealand, Australia, South Africa. Ireland is where it also got big initially, and then that's where it eventually ended up down in the Southern Hemisphere, where they kind of redefined the game recently, sped it up a lot, and made it faster and more impactful, and some bigger hits.
Okay.
But yeah, overall it spread throughout. And then now there are some countries that you would never think would get into the sport that are starting to really dominate. Argentina, Georgia, and Russia is starting to come along as well. It's really starting to become a worldwide sport, whereas before it was kind of just those English colony type
Okay.
countries.
Now, do you wear padding like in American football?
You're allowed a thin foam padding, like they have shirts that you can put on that protect your shoulders a bit, and there are scrum caps that they say help with head knocks and stuff, but really it's more for protection of your ears when you're in and you kind of get that cauliflower ear.
And
in
they
the
look
scrums.
like those old leather football helmets of the 1930s?
Exactly, yeah. It's similar to those. Really doesn't do much other than protect your
Protect your
ears, like I said. Yeah. I tend to like to actually tape my ears down when I'm in those scenarios, like playing second row in the scrum, because your head's between two rear ends, and then your ears tend to get chafed up and everything. So I'll just tape up my ears. You look a little more aggressive and tough when you're on the field and you're the guy
Okay.
with taped ears.
And the object is to what, move the ball into a net?
So it's actually similar to football. There's a H-style goalpost, and then what's called a try line, which is similar to touchdown. And you have to pass the ball back or kick the ball forward and run the ball forward and constantly hit and move your way up and try to evade attack. All while your team cannot block. So if I have the ball, I can't have my guys kind of block and clear the way for me. I'm taking on 15 guys until I pass off the ball or hit somebody and go to the ground. So it's always me against 15 players. And then the next guy, once I pass the ball off or I go down to the ground and the ball gets out, it's that guy versus 15 players. So you're kind of working your way up, chiseling your way, and hopefully,
What's a typical score, like 1-2? 1-1?
depending on the teams, like
Yeah.
I've had anything from last year when I was on Cape Cod, we had a game where we were playing, we had 13 players. The other team had about 30 something, it felt like. And they were constantly bringing in new players. And we actually managed to beat them, I believe it was 54 to 18 or 24.
Is it 6 points? What's
Five-
the point structure?
5 for crossing the line, and it's 2 points extra conversion, similar
Yep.
when you kick it over, and then 3 points if you do a drop goal, which if you're just running up the field, then all of a sudden drop, ball has to hit the ground, then you can kick it, and if it goes through, 3 points, and 3 points for a penalty conversion as well. And the other difference with football, all
Yeah.
you have to do is get your foot over the line. In rugby, you actually have to touch the ball to the ground. So often, one of the most intense parts of the game are when you get up to that line and both teams are just, it's like World War I style battles where you're both just in the trenches, kind of pummeling away at each other, working your way up. And even if they get over the line, if I put my body underneath and the ball's between us, they don't get the point because the ball hasn't touched the ground and hasn't had pressure put down on it.
That's
by the
not a
player.
question of feet over the line, it's the ball over the line.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Sounds like just like a bunch of guys fighting over something.
Yeah, it's definitely a battle. There's a lot. It's aggressive while being safe because the gameplay doesn't stop. In football, once you hit the guy, it's end of play, reset for the next one. In rugby, I want to take, if I'm tackling somebody, I'm trying to put them to the ground. I'm trying to get back up on my feet as fast as possible so I can try to grab the ball. I can't fight for the ball until my feet are up, clear my hands, then I can try to grab it. So the way you tackle is a little different. It's not as punchy, but you're doing a lot per game. You know, you're playing the whole entire game, hopefully. We all strive to play from start to
It
beginning.
sounds like an extraordinarily physical game.
Yes, you put your body through the ringer every Saturday when we play, but it feels great because afterwards you go out to the local bar with the team that's come down, and you guys are best friends. You know, you just fought against each other for 80 minutes. Now you kind of both share an experience and you can talk about it. You know, usually like the biggest guy on the team does like a quick step and evades somebody and everyone's talking about it, or you know, the little guy just totally annihilates a gigantic beast. And we have fun. It's a good time after. So it's not as much drama as a lot of the other sports tend to have, where you know this player is going against this player and talking things.
So
like
if there's not, so if I understand what you're saying, if you don't have enough players on your team, you still play.
We'll try to, yeah. And a lot of teams are very friendly as well. If we come up with, say, 13 guys, but the other team has a couple, we have the option to either play down or we can borrow a couple players. That certainly happens quite a bit.
So somebody can actually be playing against their own team by joining
Yeah,
you.
and a lot of guys end up loving it because, they're the ones who've been practicing with them and then love to just get out there. And especially there was one game where I had to fill in because the team that was visiting didn't have a lot of players. I played against Cape Cod, and it was great because we actually won in the end, even though they had to forfeit because they came so short-sighted. They still won because we were playing, cleaner
Yeah.
style. It was more refined, and it worked out.
Now, do you have plays in like rugby like you have in football? They have the slot, they have screen passes and that kind of stuff. I mean, do you have the
Yeah.
same kind of thing?
Yeah, so usually because it's two groups of guys, there's 15 players on the field, but it's 8 big lugs of different sizes and varieties. Usually like guys like me are what are called props, and they have a variety of positions. They have funny names like the hooker and the locks, who are the 2 tall basketball players who, when the ball goes out of bounds, we lift them up in the air to fight for the ball. So you see 2 guys all of a sudden up in the air trying to stretch and grab the ball. And so those 8 guys are doing the heavy work, the slow play, get the ball and just hit the first guy right in front of you, then get out to the next forward, hit, kind of just battering away at the front line. And then there are the 7 backs who are the fast guys. They're like the cheetahs of the group. So once they get set up, usually the ball will go out to them, and they'll run some sort of switch line or anything like that, where one guy goes this way and the other one goes this, and see crazy little pops over the shoulders and things like that. It's like a ballet of brutality, I would almost say.
Ballet of brutality.
And you want people to join this.
Yeah, it's one of those sports that once you're down there on the field and you've played it, like we've had guys who were very timid at first, and then once they got out for a couple practices, they were a whole nother person. Especially when you kind of share the experience of playing with 14 other guys on your team, plus the 15 other guys from the other team. It's such an experience that you all motivate each other, push each other. There's not a lot of time to kind of pick up and motivate, but when you see all your teammates making it, and
then there's the post-game drinking party for both teams.
yeah, that's
So
definitely.
you don't go back to the locker room and shower, you go to the local bar and
Yeah, we smell like we just played a sport and got all dirty and everything, and we're quite savage, but the pubs usually love us. Yeah.
Now, do you play the game rain, shine, snow,
Mud.
whatever?
Oh yeah, I love mud rugby when it's like downpouring, because you have to slow the game down. You have to really kind of just do short passes back, short runs, and just hit your way up and just barrel your way up the field. When there's a lot of kicking back and forth and things like that, it means I got to work a little harder because I got to run harder.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
When it's a slower game, it's just like walking a couple steps, hitting the next ruck, walking a
Okay.
couple steps, hitting the next guy.
Now, where are you playing in this area?
So to start, I'm looking at balancing out practices between like Town Park and Pheno Field, those areas, the more public areas. And then once we get a good size and we're looking to get some games playing, looking towards other fields like say the high school and their B-side field and places like that. Pheno Field would work out great. We'll see if they'll work with us on that. The only problem is we do a little bit of damage to the field, and they're trying to rebuild the outfield. But it already has the, if you look, it has the soccer goals, but they have the H-frame already up, so it would work out great. Hopefully we can find another field in Milford that will match that.
So you've talked to the Parks and Department and you're working on it?
Yeah, we're working on figuring that out. We have till spring to really lock in the game use, but like I said, we're going to try to keep things out in public so that people who walk by start seeing us having a good time and decide to come out and try it out.
Okay. Now, if somebody wants to try out, somebody's interested in finding out about this, how do they reach you?
So we have a Facebook page, Blackstone Valley Rugby Football Club, Instagram, Twitter, at Blackstone Rugby, and we have a email address, blackstonevalley.rugby@gmail.com. And those are the best ways to contact us, get on our mailing list and, keep up on practices. I'm trying to stay as loose with practice days right now to see what works best for everyone, because that's what it's about. Everyone in the 18-plus market, that we all have jobs, people work different hours, so I want to see what works for the biggest group of people. If I say do Monday nights at 5 to 6:30 every night, and then I get the same 6 guys every night, we're not going to grow as a team. Whereas if I kind of figure out who can come out best for what, that'll work. And then when games come up, those are going to be usually Saturdays around 1 o'clock.
Now, what type of other league would you be playing? Would you be playing like your old Cape Cod guys?
Yes, so we're looking.
League kind of connotes several teams,
Yep.
but it's really a team.
Yeah.
So who would the Blackstone Valley League be playing?
So that's a great question. There's what's called the New England Rugby Football Union, who's kind of the local group, and they're comprised of 4 different divisions for the men's. Actually, 5 if you include social, which is technically in the spring will be more of a social league. Next fall, we're looking to get either into Division 2, Division 3, or Division 4. Division 4 includes Cape Cod, my old team. It includes Monadnock, Black River, some New Hampshire and Vermont teams, as well as Western Mass. Name slips my mind right now, but out in the Berkshire's Rugby Club actually is the name.
Okay.
And Division 3, I'm not quite sure exactly who's on that these days, but it's just one step higher, while still being a group that is for people who work on Mondays, is kind of the way I think of it. Beer league-ish, we still play hard, we still act like we're all sportsmen and trying to get through the full game, but at the same time, we're not trying to kill each other. We all got work on Monday. We all need to have our bodies intact. So.
That's interesting. So let's see so when you say the Rugby Club of Berkshires, that would be one team?
Yep.
Okay, so in the case of rugby, instead of saying the Tigers and the Red Sox, you'd say the club, the Rugby Club.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
Now, the club could have 40
Or
guys.
you'd say Blackstone Valley versus the Cape.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Rugby Club could have 30 guys in it.
Yep, and especially too, if we ever get to the point of having 30, 40 guys.
You might have 2.
Yeah, a B-side, which a lot of the bigger teams, especially Boston, like the Boston Ironsides have a very large team, great team too. They're a fantastic group of guys. And so it's nice when you can have that B-side because it improves your A-side. Everyone wants to fight to get on the A-side, so they put their full effort.
Conceivably, the Boston club would be coming down to Milford to play.
Yep.
You'd be going up there to play at some point
Exactly.
and traveling around and doing these things.
Yeah, so it's definitely a traveling team. It's every Saturday for about 10 weeks in the fall, and then usually in the spring, they'll try to schedule a couple friendly matches, nothing that's on the books.
So it's a fall sport.
Primarily, but then the big tournament, the New England Rugby Football Tournament in Newport, is in early June, and that's a pretty big, or actually no, early May.
And how do you get into that?
Just being part of the union, which will be signed up by next fall, we'll be signed
So
up
is that
for.
just an elimination?
Yep, it's a 2-day event, and it's a party.
Somehow,
you think
in our off-camera discussions, there's always beer involved in
Yes.
It's definitely part of it, but even just the camaraderie and the hanging out with other players, what I've noticed is I've seen people wearing their local rugby uniforms anywhere, like Boston and stuff. I'll see somebody who's got a rugby uniform on or a jersey, and I'll strike up a conversation, and it's like we're brothers because we both have played the sport, we know what's involved, and we have that experience.
So really, it's more like rugby is the hors d'oeuvre and the party starts afterwards.
There is a phrase, my drinking club has a rugby problem. I've heard that one. But
Now, do you pick a local bar as your home bar, or do you rotate around the bars in town?
usually a lot of teams will have one that they use. Usually it'll be a sponsor also.
Ah, okay.
And, like down in Cape Cod, we had a relationship with a certain bar. And it was great because it was open taps for 2 hours for both teams, lots of food and everything. It just kind of helps bring, I think really why drinking's become such a part of rugby is because everyone shares a pint and you're friends at that point. And one of the big things with rugby is sportsmanship and having respect for your teammates as well as the other players.
So who picks up the tab, the home club?
Yes, so it's, say this year we're hosting a certain team, we'll pick up the tab, then we'll travel up to them next year and they'll pick up the tab.
Okay, have you picked a local establishment yet?
That's part of the winter program of starting to put things together, but we're definitely looking at, like, say, the tradesmen and things like that.
I'm sure you'll have to go sample them all.
Yeah, just travel out between them. But
So people who like sports and like drinking beer,
This is the thing.
this is the thing
This
for
is
them.
it.
it definitely is. In the adult league, when we do get down to doing youth and everything like that, it's a whole nother atmosphere.
Obviously, but in the adult league,
But yeah,
so
it's
basically, let's say, if you like football and soccer combined,
yeah,
like-
hockey even.
and hockey, like
Yeah, body checks, yeah, I assume.
physicality, body checking,
Yeah,
that type of thing, and like to party afterwards, that's how you, the ideal rugby player.
But you also get to wear a scrum cap.
you can wear a scrum cap if you
I
want,
mean,
or tape up your ears. And yeah, I've certainly seen there. I was at the tournament last year, and there was a gentleman well into his 60s who was still out there playing. So there's no age limit. I've played against several men in their 40s and 50s who were playing as hard as they did back when they were in their 20s, sometimes even harder because you've had multiple years of just building up and great attacks and everything. And even it's a great weight loss program too. I managed to drop 40 pounds last summer. I took some time off of rugby and put some of them back on, but it's great to have that motivation.
so it wasn't,
with
the weight
other
wasn't
talent.
lost.
Yeah,
It was misplaced.
exactly.
I was going to say, even with the festivities afterward, you still lose weight.
Your body's going in overdrive for like 2 days afterwards, so you're able to burn off.
But
all
you
those
can't
calories.
even step off the field for like a sip of water, can you?
Nope. Only when somebody scores or if there's, say, an injury or anything like that, are there times you can drink water. So if teams are just going back and forth and no one's scoring, you could go a whole half without drinking a sip of water.
Now, could someone bring the water on the field to you?
Only when something happens.
So in
to
other
stop.
words, if you happen to be in the backfield and going, I'm going to rest for a little bit, they couldn't bring you something?
Nope.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so plenty of hydration before the match. And I think that's why, too, there's that, your mind is going a million miles a minute for 80 minutes.
Okay.
And, you're constantly making adjustments in your head and communicating with the other people while not letting the other team know exactly where the ball is going to go at any one moment.
So there's no Coach Belichick on the sidelines talking
No.
to Tom Brady through his headset.
No, that's where it's 100% building up your players before the match because other than
There are
say during
coaches?
there are coaches,
But they're sitting on the sidelines during
Yep,
the match.
or maybe on the field like
They're
I'm gonna-
player coaches.
Yeah, so I'm going to get my certification this spring, and I'll be a player/coach until my knees get tired and I decide to just stay on the sidelines and maybe. I'm hoping by 35 we have enough players that we can even start an old boys team, and that would be great.
By age 35 or 2035?
Age 35.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to be 35 plus for an old boys team.
Oh,
Yeah.
Al,
So-
you going to join?
no, old boys, really old boys, it has to be.
Actually,
Oh, then that's me.
one thing that has started, I forget exactly where it has, but because a lot of the rugby players are starting to get older, they have a tag rugby team for a lot of senior citizens and everything. So really, they've covered every age range with rugby. There's underwater rugby. There's
Underwater. I'm not even going to ask.
It's crazy. It's more so just putting rugby after something and calling it that sport. But there's even wheelchair rugby, which is pretty impressive. to see because those guys are just wheeling their way up, crashing into each other at full speed. It's probably more aggressive than regular
Instead
rugby.
of bump cars, it's bump rugby.
Yeah. So it's definitely a sport that crosses a lot of boundaries and brings a lot of people together. And
Okay, so we've got a couple of minutes left, so let's rehash this. The name of the group is the Blackstone Valley Rugby Football Club.
Yep.
People want to join, they go to,
Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram
and the,
at Blackstone Valley Rugby Football Club,
okay,
or email blackstonevalley@gmail.com.
okay. Are you practicing right now?
Yes, we're going to be starting practices this Saturday.
Oh, really?
Will be my first practice.
How many people have you got so far?
It's a good handful.
Okay, so
Still
that
trying to
means
figure-
when this airs, you are practicing,
Yes.
because we're taping this 2 weeks early, so it's.
Yeah.
And
So
where
at
were
that
you
point-
practicing?
Town Park, and for as long as
And when? Monday nights? Or
we're going to
weekend?
be moving times around. So I'd say go to Facebook page, or if you're not a Facebook social media user, send us an email, and from there I'll put you on a list. So every time I announce practice, you'll know. Like I said, I don't want to solidify anything too early because I want to make it the best for everyone.
Okay.
And yeah, we're going to keep going until
So you're
snow
bringing an old
piles up.
sport into the Blackstone Valley, and
Yep.
we'll see how it goes.
So it's older than football.
Oh yeah, much older.
So I guess the idea is when you get this really going and have competitive matches, we'll have to come back and revisit this.
Yep.
But we wanted to get you on to talk about this because it's new.
Yep, and certainly want to just get everyone in the greater Milford area, in the Blackstone Valley area, kind of informed on it. And, you know, already I was on the WMRC this morning, and within 10 minutes after, I already started getting some messages
Cool.
for some potential new players.
So the next time you come on, we'll want to see a rugby uniform with a scrum cap on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's nothing better than short shorts and a tight shirt and a scrum cap. Yeah.
Is there a Super Bowl of rugby?
There's World Cup, and there's the Heineken Cup and several other different. That's a great thing about it too. It's not just the Super Bowl. It's several World Cup every 4 years, Heineken Cup every year. I think there's a Rose Cup every year. Southern Hemisphere Super 8. There's several tournaments, and I would certainly encourage anyone just go on YouTube and type in rugby union match, and you can find several thousand of them.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
Yep.
Well, we're pretty much out of time. So, Mike, thanks very much for coming on.
And good luck.
And good luck with this. It sounds great.
Sounds
I
like
definitely want to watch it. I haven't seen a rugby match since I was about 10 years old.
Yeah.
I think I told you beforehand, my next door neighbor played in college
Oh, that's
and would take me down, but that was a long, long time ago.
yeah.
But I look forward to seeing this.
yeah, it'll be neat, something different.
Yeah. If you don't want to play, at least you can come watch.
Watch a
Okay,
bunch of
and
people.
go to the party after.
Yeah,
Yeah.
watch a bunch of preliminary drunks.
Okay, thanks. And we're done.